Welcome to Business Prowess with Rafael and Dr. Andrea. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Rafael is the founder of 5 unique shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Dr. Andrea Adams-Miller is an award-winning international keynote speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of the Red Carpet Connection Publicity, Publishing, and Talent Agency, and CEO of IgniteYourRelationship.com. Known as the Dream Maker, she makes visionaries' dreams come true, bigger than they ever dare to desire.
Dr. Andrea, happy Friday. How are you today?
I am hunky and dory.
Wow. Hunky and dory, both. So today we're going to talk about mastering the art of communication and connection, right?
Yeah.
And when we think about connection, that's how you and I came together, right?
Definitely so.
Through Jose Escobar, who we're both part of Connected Leaders Academy. But also when we think about communication, it's how we even had our first communication of how we even said, hey, let's do the show together. Right?
Yeah.
And I love how we have brought on different guests. Today, it might just be you and me. We might have a guest. We might not have a guest. And that's cool because sometimes I just want to pick your brain. You have so much to offer.
Oh, thanks.
I'm excited.
Well, I've also thought the same about you. I was like, I was just asking you beforehand. I'm like, I don't know much about your personal life. We haven't ever had the chance to sit and talk one-on-one, heart and soul.
Yeah, we haven't.
But we could do that now, one-on-one, heart and soul, with 80 million people watching.
Yeah, I don't think that's personal.
It could be.
We could give some ideas about our lives. So I live in New York. I have 2 amazing boys. One is 20, the other one is 23. And for me, it's always been about being the best dad I can be, right? I can't be the kind of dad my dad was or the kind of dad that I see across the street. I have to be the best version of me as a dad I can be. And then I'm also engaged at the moment. Hopefully one day I will be married to this amazing, beautiful woman that I'm with. But like I said to you, I left it up to her. So I asked a question. I even proposed a date, but it was too much. She's definitely a B, right? She's a blueprint. So totally, she has to decide for when it's the right time for her. And I'm leaving her the space. So for me, it's once I started learning bank, it's been such an overwhelming eye-opener, if you will. Right?
Yeah.
And I know you're diving into it deep as well.
Yeah. So those of you who are listening, if you're like, bank, where are you guys going to the bank together? Which bank are you going to? Well, bank is actually, it's Codebreakers Technology. It's a science-based personality assessment that actually was originally written for sales. But when you think about it, we're all selling all the time. And it allows you to understand how people work and operate, how they talk, why they might push certain items, why they let other things go. And when you think about it, even a 2-year-old is selling when they say, can I have a cookie? Can I have a cookie? Why can't I have a cookie, Mom? Can I have a cookie now? And then you say, no, no, no. And then they go, Dad, can I have a cookie? So they're trying to sell the other person who might have some weight to the situation. And bank has been so helpful because it's allowed us to explore some deeper levels of relationships, and everything's a relationship, whether you're just talking to the clerk at the store or you're with your fiance or spouse, to boyfriend or girlfriend, to people that you're doing business with. So it's been pretty fun. And we've been deep in the trenches learning how it all works and what's all available to us. And it's quite deep.
So deep.
Very deep.
It's not even the basement. It's like think of the CIA where they have silos and you have to go like 40 flights down. That's how deep we're getting into it.
I'm trained in forensic profiling.
Mhm.
So this is very much now when I say trained, I'm like beginning trained. So it's not like I did advanced training in it. But in the learning the beginning, like I did an overview class and so forth when I worked in law enforcement. And I did take a CIA class as well, but that was kind of like a fun thing that we did. But this very much parallels that because it's helping you pick up on words and physical behaviors and things people do. And it's funny because having left law enforcement over 25 years ago, and then now taking this class, all of a sudden I'm coming back to the things that I'd forgotten about. I'd forgotten about or wasn't paying attention to things like I used to. I used to pay attention to how people like what this meant or what, some people will go, what
Hmm.
that meant different than this, then, let me think about that, all different meanings. And although bank doesn't specifically talk about physical behaviors or mouth shapes or how people's eyes might look or where they're looking, because I'm also trained in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, there's some signs and cues there. But at the same time, bank, when they talk about certain behaviors and how people might behave, when you know that that's how the person behaves or that's who they are, if they're a blueprint, that means they like rules, they're really rigid. If they're a nurturer, whether always super, they're basically caregivers is what I'm a nurturer. We're very much caregivers. Action people. Sifu is a high action. He's super making things happen, gets things done. Boom, boom, boom. I see you have switched. Now you're knowledge.
Yes. It's not that I switched, is that I think they're very close, right? So
Yeah.
my knowledge, if you look at my name right there, it says Sifu Rafael dash KANB. So my
Yeah.
knowledge is 24.
Mm,
A is 22. So they're very right there. And my
really?
nurturing is 22. And my blueprint is 21.
So
And
you are very high on all of them. Very awesome.
yeah, the goal is to be 100, right? So I'm getting there. We still always have work to do. One of the things that you talked earlier about is you talked about a 2-year-old and how they ask and ask and they know how to negotiate, if you will. But sometimes negotiation goes bad, and that's when they have a temper tantrum
Yeah.
and they throw themselves on the floor and they're not communicating anymore. They think that's communication, and that's what so many people in the world do. They don't communicate properly, so they're having adult temper tantrums, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
I saw a post recently. It was a picture of a father and the grandfather and the little girl in a store in a mall having a temper tantrum, throwing herself on the floor,
Oh,
screaming
I
and
was I was glad you said it was a little girl. I thought maybe it was grandfather.
and she was banging on the floor, and both the father and
Mhm.
the grandfather were just there having a conversation. They let her have her tantrum, but they were not giving her what she wanted because
Mhm.
she did not negotiate properly. So
Yeah.
proper communication is also key, and when we can properly communicate, we can connect so much better as
Yeah.
well.
It's interesting. Let's go there a second because you have 2 boys, so I have 3 girls. So how
See,
I decided to say that again?
you told me something personal.
Yes. Oh, I tell the world everything. So, um, how I learned to have my kids in the store and how they behave in the store was based on a girlfriend of mine who had her children very early. So, I I don't think I had any children yet. No. And she had 2 children, and her kids at the checkout line, the whole store, they would ask for things. But at the checkout line, they would take the things off the shelves. I want this, and act terrible at the checkout line. And she would say no, and then they would break down, and then they'd have temper tantrums and be screaming. And then she's like overwhelmed and embarrassed, and she's got all this stuff. So she just wants to get out of there. So she would say yes.
Mm.
I had made a decision at that time. I think I was 20, that I might have been pregnant. Maybe I was 21, but I was like, I will never have that situation. So my kids did not even know that those things were for sale. In their mind, what I taught is those are displays.
Mm.
And we don't touch those, we don't look at them, that they don't happen. I never bought anything in it, and I never dealt with it. And if they had a temper tantrum, I would apologize and remove them from the store.
Mhm.
And I'll say, I'll come back and either buy that or put it away. But this is not happening if they had a breakdown. So it didn't usually happen more than once, because they were instantly removed.
Mhm.
You were rewarded with nothing. And my daughter Demaya, who's now 25, she was probably 12 or 13. And I remember her coming home and telling me that she had a really uncomfortable moment. And I said, what? And she said, well, I think she was 14 or 15 at the time, because she went with a boyfriend. And they told her to buy, the mom said, buy what you want, took her through the cash register and said, buy whatever you want. And Demaya froze. She said, Mom, those things aren't for sale. We don't buy those things. Those are not for us. And I didn't know what to do. And I was in panic.
Oh.
She's now married to him, and they still have that where she probably won't buy anything and he'll buy everything.
That's very funny.
Yeah. So how did you deal with it, your kids doing that, and then the store?
Example, I like going to nice restaurants. Because I had kids didn't mean I didn't still like going to nice restaurants.
Yep.
So I became Mr. Mom. If it was up to my ex-wife, it would have been pandemonium. So I would pack a bag with crayons. I didn't resort for the restaurant to provide it. I would bring it to keep the kids engaged. I would bring little things for them to do. If my child started screaming, I would excuse myself from the table, take my child outside so that it would not disturb anyone else, and wait it out with them.
Yep.
No matter what they were screaming about, if they were young enough and they needed a bottle, I would put a bottle on them. I even told my ex-wife, you stay with the other one, because we had two, right? And I'll be back. And sometimes it was 10 minutes, sometimes it was half hour, and I didn't care. And my child understood, I better not act out, because Dad's going to take me out. And it didn't matter the age. And when my son was terrible too, he thought he can get away with it, because we went out to dinner with my, at the time, sister-in-law, whose kids thought it was funny to run around the restaurant and bump into other patrons. And I was, oh my God, I know never to go with these people again. And I never did. I would never go to a restaurant with them again, especially if they were bringing their kids. They were nice people, but when they brought their kids, they lost control. The kids controlled everything. So my kids, they're like, oh, I'm going to go run with them. I'm like, I grabbed them by their shirt. I'm like, sit down. I said, oh, we're leaving. But I'm like, no, that's them. We don't do that. But I'm like, there's no buts. I said, you can enjoy your meal, or we can go home and you can enjoy your meal there.
Yeah.
And that's how, that's how you have to be, as a parent, you have to understand that they are the children. So I say that because my oldest at 23, when he was younger, and I had him for the weekend, a particular weekend that I had him, he wanted to do something. I said, well, call your mom. He's like, okay. He calls his mom. She's at a bar. And every time he'd call her, she's somewhere partying. And he'd be yelling, and she wouldn't hear him, and there was back and forth. So one day he told her, step outside. So she goes outside. He goes, why am I the parent in this relationship? And I was
Wow.
like, whoops. And so
Wow.
I didn't say anything to him. And I've never, ever said anything negative to my children about their mom, because it's not my place. It's their mom. And I always put her on a pedestal because it's your mom. You treat her with respect. And one day I walked into my kid's house and I heard my youngest one cursing at his mother.
Mm.
I lost it. I said, you absolutely don't talk. And I raised my voice. I've never hit my kids, never, there's no reason for it. And I said to my son, you don't talk. Well, she cursed at me first. I said, two wrongs don't make a right. And I said, that is wrong. She's your mother. It doesn't matter how she's behaving. What matters is the way you react.
Yeah.
Don't go down.
Yeah. Very, very, very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, when you were talking about the kids at the restaurant, we laugh about that now because my girls are 32, 26, and 25.
Mhm.
And when I only had Destiny, Destiny always had a little bag or a little purse with
Names.
dad's. Yeah, thank you. She'd have little things to do, a little bag. Barney was popular back then, so she had a lot of little Barney figurines and would have little pens and crayons. And then when Maya came along, they all then knew that they could count on Demaya. Demaya always had a little purse, and they had Post-it notes and pens and markers and little things. And everywhere we went, they had this little bag of things, and they would all turn Maya because they wanted Demaya to give them something to do. And I crack up all the time. I guess I don't crack up I guess I kind of. I say crack up like I'm laughing, but I'm laughing and frustrated at the same time because I don't understand, why are you bringing your kids with nothing to do?
Mm.
And if you did bring nothing to do, why aren't you making, the fork dance and giving them a napkin to make doodads and, uh,
Make
find things, use the sugar packets to talk to each other. I'm constantly perplexed on the lack of imagination, and then or the kids throw a temper tantrum till they get a phone. And to me, I'm like, they don't need a phone. There's people here.
Well, Marianne, thank you so much for joining us. And she called us beautiful people. So, we love you for that too.
Very much.
But for someone my first toy was when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
So knowing how to play with anything was key for me. So my first toy was given to me by my sister's boyfriend. And it was a
Wow.
little red car. And he was the nicest guy. He was a professional singer. He owned a record store. A record label, the whole deal. But for some reason, my sister, maybe she was taking care of me that day, took me on her date with this guy. He had a
Oh,
beautiful red Corvette, and I was in the back seat. It was beautiful. And then he's like, what am I going to do with this kid? So I can be with his sister. Let me get him a toy. So I was happy that he did that. It was my first toy, my first
wow.
bought toy. So
What were Christmases like for you?
what's Christmas?
Wow. Now, as you say, what's Christmas because you were Jewish, or you just didn't celebrate holidays?
So in Colombia, we didn't have Christmas. We had the Three Kings. So January 6th is when the Three Kings came over. So I went to sleep. I would wake up, there'd be underwear and socks on my bed. That's all I knew.
Mm.
That's all I got.
Yeah,
Right?
total
The
different.
necessities, right? Socks and underwear. And that was it. And I didn't even know what a cake was, whether it
Wow.
was Spanish or English. The first cake I got was when I was 8 years old, and it was kind of a little surprise. I had gotten to this country 3 days before my birthday, my eighth birthday, and somebody said, "Oh, there's cake." I don't know. In Spanish, I don't know what cake is, right? So there was a tiny little cake, and we all had a little piece, and I was like, "Oh, cool." That was my birthday. So my eighth birthday, I got a cake. It's my first
How
cake.
cool. How fun. But it took 2 more years for you to get a toy.
That's it. My parents are definitely old school.
Yeah. Yeah. Are your parents still living?
No, they passed. My mom passed last year, a year before actually, one day before her birthday.
Oh, she
Which
didn't get
was
cake.
pretty interesting. She didn't get to eat the cake, but my dad lived to be 91.
Mm.
The man still had a full. I know I say this incorrectly. My fiance always corrects me. I would say a full set of hair, but he had a full hair, right? And
Oh, good. You can say it however you want.
exactly. And she always busts my chops, and I go, "That's how I say it." And my mom, she had dementia at the end, but it's the only time that she actually would look at me with loving eyes when she
Interesting.
had dementia. And to me, it was beautiful.
Wow. You know, now that we've gone through speed coding where we have to guess codes of people, what would
Right.
you guess your mom's code was?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a deep question because it makes me think of my dad as well. My dad was definitely, both my parents were definitely blueprinted knowledge. My dad was a principal and my
Mhm.
mom was a teacher.
Oh,
But the nurturing was not, and usually teachers are nurturers also, but it was more blueprint, I believe. Even though she did keep little like report cards, little things, I only know this because after she passed, I found them, right?
hmm.
I got them. So I got like my report card. Actually, before she passed, she actually sent it to me one day. She got when I was, I think in second grade, she sent me a picture of my second grade. I didn't even know it existed. So I have
Wow.
my second grade picture. That's when I think I had a patch on my eye. Um, I almost lost my eye when I was a kid. Um, I I always tell everybody I have more lives than a cat, and a cat usually has 9 lives. I should be dead that many times over, but the good Lord has kept me here for a reason, and that's so we can have this conversation.
Well, you created this open loop for people about your eye, so you probably should close that for them.
No, they can ask. I felt from a balcony, hit a pipe on the way down, and it was in a courtyard. We actually lived in the school that my dad was the principal of. They gave us
Hmm.
an apartment in the school, and the name of the school is Marco Fidel Suarez, I believe, or Juarez, something like that. And so I was in the balcony. I fell. I hit a pipe on my way down, hit my eye. I didn't lose my eye, thank God. But when I hit, if there was not a wash basin in the old days, they had those big stone wash basins, it had water in it. If it didn't have water in it, I probably would have been dead. The
Mm,
last thing I remember is I hit the water. I looked up and all I saw, the water just turning red.
mm.
I woke up 3 weeks later in my dad's arms leaving the hospital.
Wow.
Here's,
So you were
here's the funny, here's the funny
unconscious quite a
remembrance
bit.
of, here's the only thing I remember of that day. My dad has me in his hands on a blanket, but I'm naked underneath the blanket. My only concern is that somebody's going to see my butt. That's it. That's all I was concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah. The priorities at that age. Oh, wow. That I didn't for some reason, I I thought I'd heard that. I thought I knew why you had, a patch on your eye, but I was taking pictures when you were talking, so I remember sitting down to listen because 'cause I'd stopped taking pictures just to listen to you, and then I realized, "Oh, I need to take pictures again," and so I don't always people don't always know that if you're photographing an event, you pretty much hear nothing
Right.
because you're looking for the shot, looking for people, aware of where you're stepping, what you're doing, looking at lighting, what's happening. You have so much going on in your head and to get the shot that you don't
Mm.
um hear what people are saying. So I always thought it was funny because people would say when they would hire me for an event, they'd say, well, I mean, you get to come to the like, let's say it's a $3,000 event, and they were like, well, I mean, you get to come to the $3,000 event for free, and I'm like, and hear all the speakers, and I'm like, yeah. I'm
You
not
don't-
gonna hear anything any of the speakers say, unless I, for a moment, sit down and listen, and then I forget to take pictures. There was somebody else I sat down and listened to their talk and never even took their picture at all,
Mm. Mm.
and
Well,
it
you
was
know what? Because you have the conversation going on in your head. Am I at the right angle? Is this the right thing? How's the lighting? How do they look? All these conversations are going on, so it's hard for you to, of course, and I get that. Absolutely.
all the same, all the same. So, I wanna go back to your parents. So, do you think that they were more nurturing at school,
No.
or were they more disciplinarian?
Oof, big time. Big time.
Interesting.
It was at the time where corporal punishment was allowed by teachers. So the teachers would discipline the kids on the spot, where they would hit them with the ruler, hit them with different things. I recall one time that a kid got beaten by my dad really bad because this is a horrible thing that this kid did, but he should never have gotten beaten by my dad.
Mm,
The kid took a sharpened pencil and as another kid put it down as another kid was sitting, and that pencil went into the boy. Dangerous, right? But
yeah,
and my dad beat the other kid. Meanwhile, it's two wrongs don't make a right,
yeah.
right? So yeah, and those were the times where the teachers were disciplining the kids, where you heard nuns beating kids, priests beating kids. Well, priests did other things, but besides that, and it was just a terrible time where parents send their kids to school and sometimes didn't even know that their kids were being bullied by the teachers who were there supposed to protect them and guide them. One time, as I think I was in, I would say fourth grade, I went into the bathroom here in the US. I was in fourth grade. I went into the bathroom and the kids were out of control. They were yelling and screaming. And I said, "Stop it." So the teacher walked in. He heard me yelling. He thought it was me. He punched me dead in the chest. Boom. Threw me against the wall. I just looked at him in shock. I didn't say anything else. I didn't cry because the way he hit me hard. Um, but my dad hit me way harder. So
Yeah.
when I got to class, his class, because it was during lunchtime, right? I was in the bathroom. And when I wound up being in his classroom, you know what he had for me? He had chips for me. That was his apology.
Potato chips?
He gave me a bag of potato chips,
Okay.
apologizing. He realized that he made a mistake because he probably expected me to get knocked out. I don't know, but I didn't. I got pushed into the wall and I
Yeah.
didn't say anything. So what did I do? When he gave me the bag of chips, I took it. I didn't eat it because I didn't accept his apology, right? He did the wrong thing. I just put it on my table and I left it there. But so it was even happening back in the 70s where kids were still being abused by teachers.
We still had paddles and so forth. I remember I got in trouble and got swatted with a, I'll say swatted because it wasn't a paddling, but it was with a wiffle bat. And it was because I called my one teacher's name rhymed with bitch. So I um said that instead of her other name to be funny, and she heard me and did not appreciate that. And um so Mrs. Betcher, if you're watching, I apologize again. I've talked to her as an adult, but yeah, but it's funny because she was my gym teacher. That's why she had a wiffle bat. But I have such a good relation. It was my teachers that were like I am so fond of and close to. In fact, I just ran into my music teacher from seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, and the other day, and we both cried and hugged
Mm.
each other. She had a bad day because her friend, she's older, and her friend fell ill while they were together that morning, and had to go to the hospital. So she had some concerns. But I was telling her how um, what an impact she made on me because she was our choral director, and we also had a group, that we would sing a chorus that was specialized, our little group. And we were called the Flappers and Fellers. So we wore the little dresses with the little flappers. And I was funny when I went up to her, I said, "Oh no, I talk about you and think about you all the time. And I still remember the song that you wrote that we did." So, and I go, "Give me my hat, give me or hand me my cane, do do do," and I still know the little dance, and she was cracking up because it's so funny that I remember that. But I was telling her how I was made fun of and bullied, and they would call me chicken because they said how I would sing. I'd go, and how I move my head like this. I look like a chicken because I make my head go like that when I sing. And I said, but I remember her telling me it was because I was so expressive and used such good enunciation that I always got to be in the center. And that she would pick me for solos and things. And I was very thankful to her for that because I didn't let my friends or not non-friends. It was both my friends and non-friends who picked on me, which we tend to do, who would poke at me, but I didn't let that stop me. And now because of her, I've been in musicals, I've gotten awards. I'm singing in a showcase tonight, a cabaret for the senior center with several other people, and the gentleman who's doing the music direction for that. We're allowed to pick out our own songs, and I realized that a lot of the songs that people were picking might be serious, and I wanted to incorporate more fun and laughter. So I'm singing Edelweiss, Edelweiss, and then we're shortening it. So I'm only singing a little bit of it. And then I'm going to talk about, well, when you're in the mountains and you see the beautiful Edelweiss by Marianne, then of course the girl on the hill sees the lonely goat herd, lady yodel, oh. And then I'm going to sing a little bit of that. And I'm wearing a little goofy outfit. And in fact, I have, yeah, I'm going to take one of our horses and put horns on it so it looks like a goat. And then my other song, I'm singing Doris Day, "You made me love you. I didn't want to do it," and being all flirty because I thought that would be fun.
Sounds like you're gonna have a blast tonight.
We're going to have a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be fun. Yeah. But it was because of somebody like her who encouraged me.
You've only told me 2 names.
Of my kids?
Yeah. What's your
Oh.
third?
Well, they're Destiny, Devaney, and Demaya. Destiny, Devaney, and Demaya. But those are their first names. Or excuse me, their middle names. Their full names. So I have Andrea Destiny. So I'm Andrea. She's Andrea. Andrea Destiny. because the sound, the phonetics of the sound sounds better with Destiny. And then I have Amelia Devaney and Avonlea Demaya.
Mm,
And
nice.
Avonlea is after Anna Green Gables, and there's a Anne of Avonlea. I thought they spoke French, so I assumed that they had an accent of Avonlea, but apparently it's pronounced Avon Lee, which if it was Avon Lee, I never would have named her that, but it's Avonlea. And girls have that AD construction that comes from my dad's side of the family. My dad, all of his mom and dad, Alice and Alonzo, and then all his brothers and sisters were A names. So Albert, Alonzo, Albert, Adalia, Ada, Alma, Adrian, and Alan, and then Alfred, my dad. And then, so I'm the only child, and I'm Andrea. There's nobody to carry my dad's name on. I thought he's Alfred Daniel. If I named the kids AD, each one of them, no matter who they married or what they did, they would keep that.
Carrie, there you go. Beautiful. Very brilliant on your part.
Yeah.
I'm
So tell me
named
about your boys.
I'm named after my dad, so I'm a junior.
Oh.
I don't go by that.
Okay.
So my dad's name is Rafael Antonio.
Mm.
Mine is Rafael Robinson. Robinson is my middle name.
Oh.
And I said to my mom, "Why'd you pick Robinson?" She goes, "She liked Robinson Crusoe." I'm like,
Oh.
"Okay, good answer."
Okay.
I guess that's why I like the water, right?
Maybe to
So
travel.
my boys is Marco and Marco Raphael, and my other one is Giovanni Cristoforo. Giovanni, my ex-wife is Italian German,
Mm.
and we named him Cristoforo for her dad. Her dad, amazing, amazing man. I loved her dad so much, and her
Wow.
mom was really incredible. But her dad was the kind of dad that people ran over him.
Mm.
Guy was such a sweetheart that he just let people run over him. His wife controlled him. His daughters ran over him, and the guy was just not tech smart, not anything, but building wise, brilliant.
Mm.
He
So he was
helped
a
build.
carpenter?
He was he a contractor, so he
Mm.
built a house a day. He had a crew that big. He used to build 365 homes a year.
Jeez.
Very wealthy, and he's just super nice guy. When his wife died, for about 8 years, he wore nothing but black. And his car, he drove with her clothes. He could not let go. He loved her so much, which is
Wow.
beautiful to see. But the poor man just didn't let go. You know.
Mm.
So
Yeah. On one hand, that's beautiful, and on one hand, that's sad because he
yes,
wanted
correct.
to have a life, Yeah.
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 He got dementia at the end, where I was not with them, but I heard that they lost him like for 14 hours. And so this is communication 101 for anybody. And we are talking about communication and connection. If you have a parent or a grandparent who has dementia, don't take it for granted that they're not leaving the home. They need to wear a bracelet with their information.
Yeah.
So somebody can see them and say, "Oh, maybe it says something. Please call my home or call my kids," or whatever it is. Something, even a neck, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Something that identifies them, because for 14 hours, they didn't know what happened to this man. Nobody saw him, and he actually walked, I think he walked like 40 miles. It was a ridiculous number. I don't even know if it was that many, but he just walked. He went for a walk.
Yeah,
needs
when I
to.
worked in law enforcement, we would get these calls where the person would be in the middle of winter, walk outside, no, their nightgown on or naked. Good morning, Mandy. Oh, good morning. Good morning. Talk about somebody who's a breath of fresh air. She's just
Total-
lovely.
She
Um,
totally.
yeah. Yeah. And that would be so scary. So, just like we tell people, get a dog cat tag or a cat tag on your cat or chip them, you know, do that for your loved one.
Yeah.
Because that happens. That usually how they would be found is they'd eventually get confused and go up to someone and say, help me, or ask questions or or be afraid to talk to someone because they knew that they were wrong, something was wrong, and then they wouldn't talk to people, and someone would call and say, see somebody, lady who's seeming, scared of people and weird in a nightgown or a house dress, or yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's quite amazing. There's, you know, so many different levels of um, layers of who we are and the depth of people and how they show up in the world. That I'm glad that we're having this kind of just one-on-one conversation so that people can see us as well, the authenticity of who we are and how we show up. And what one of the things that we haven't shared is, we've talked about the things that we've done well as parents, to help keep our kids in line, but we haven't revealed any things about ourselves that maybe weren't so good, that we've corrected, or things that maybe we should still be correcting. So maybe we can be a little authentic and share something like that.
Mm. Well, for me, family has always been so important because I didn't, even though I don't know if you knew, but I'm number 10 of 12.
Mm,
So being part of a huge family, we're not close. I actually grew up with my sister who raised me from the age of 10, right? And she calls herself my mother's sister. And
mm,
her husband has taken me in too. So I consider him like a dad, right? Where these two human beings stepped up for me. But in my whole upbringing, I didn't know what love was
mm,
because, and so for me, that's one of the things I always try to share with people, that we matter, that you matter. Right? This is why I love Bank, because when Sherry Tree, the founder of Codebreaker Bank, when she got up on stage and she said, people matter, man, did that hit home for me. To be honest with you, I had heard of Bank about 18 months earlier, and it was in a group of about 56 people, and nobody did anything about it because the people didn't present it correctly. They
mm,
didn't. They were more like blueprints.
mm,
Presented it not to everybody in the room, and they didn't know how to communicate properly. So
mm.
everybody in the room said, "That's nonsense. I'm not dealing with that." And even when I saw Michelle murder, and I said hi to her, and I go back, I said, "I know that," and I kind of went like this to, "I know that." And it was funny. The duffel bag I had with me, I had the cards, the 4 bank cards with me.
Oh, funny.
And I said, it's funny. I think I have them in this bag. I never took them out of the bag. And
Oh
I
my
said, oh,
goodness.
no.
So
And I showed them to her. And she goes, yeah, those are them. And the funny thing
we're
about
talking
it
about
is
these.
those exact cards, right? So I showed them to her and I go, yeah, these cards. I go, yeah, I get it. But I didn't get it. I was basically blowing her off because as I didn't know who she was. She's amazing, by the way. And I thought she was similar to the people I met 18 months earlier, which they were just going to like blah, 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 blah. And it was like Charlie Brown's teacher talking, and you could not understand a word. And I thought it was going to be the same nonsense. And then Sherry Tree goes up there. I didn't even approach their booth, to be honest with you. at all. I saw their booth and I was like, okay, yeah, same stuff.
Mhm.
And then when Cherry Tree started talking, I was like, oh my God, I missed it. I missed it. I wish I wish I would have met Cherry Tree 18 months earlier, but maybe it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be that day,
Yeah.
right? At the
Well,
CRO,
your mentor would have been somebody different than Michelle and me.
right? But so I'm happy that everything happens for a reason, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I've known about Bank for 12 years.
Really?
I've been friends with Sherry. Um, not like best friends by any means, but we knew each other. I actually popped into her event once. I was traveling and we popped into her event and met some other friends there, said hi. I actually talked to Esther longer than I talked to Sherry in
Mhm.
our world or whatever. But I knew them and stuff. So we had a loose friendship, and it took all these years for us to form this close of a relationship. And I'm Sherry's publicist now. So there's some things that we're getting out so that more people can understand the depth and authenticity of Bank and how impactful it really is. It's been quite amazing and quite interesting. And thank you for being vulnerable. That sharing what love is and how it operates. And I suppose um, mine is kind of similar in a way. Uh, I am and was very loved. However, um, the major, when you have your parents, how they love or how they behave is sometimes different than how you show up or how you do things. And my dad loves people very much, but he's also um, um, has some challenges with that. And how he loves sometimes is um, by expectations, and um, it can be very negative and with words and actions. And I understand that he's probably trying to be manipulative in a positive way, trying to get what he needs or his needs met. But what it does is, unfortunately, is it pushes people away. And having grown up in that situation, I thought that's what love should be. There had to be, you were only loved if you did what the other person expected, even if that wasn't what was best for you or the best way to do it or the timing. Um, so it took me a really long time, and it's been this last year that I've really been able to get at the core of that, to release those things. And so now it's kind of interesting because I just did a huge big release. I went to Puerto Vallarta to be with my coach for NLP. I'm not only a master practitioner, I'm a trainer of NLP, and I'm also in school to be a master trainer. So that means I can train other trainers because I think everybody should have access to
Mhm.
this ability to release limiting beliefs, the stories, to reevaluate how things can show up differently. And so now I'm like, wow, what do I? So if you look at my code A action usually meant I would only take action if there was great reward or great punishment. And Mandy's correct. Great damage occurs in childhood when we don't understand adult behavior towards yourself as a child. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that that person was trying to do that. There's all kinds of different things. And so for me, I'd like to stand in the positive that the intention was well, it just didn't always come off that way. And uh, it's very interesting how things have changed. But now I know I don't have to. Whatever I do or don't do, no one's gonna punish me. No one's gonna hurt me, whether they love or don't love me. I'm not. That's not a guarantee, and I'm not attached to that. And so to now be able to just do things because I choose to do them and I want to do them, or I take great joy in them, or the fact that I didn't do it and not punish myself for it. Yeah, even if it was for someone and I didn't do it, well, rather than beat myself up, I just didn't do it. So
There you
we'll do it now.
go.
Yeah.
So
So
everybody, thank you for joining us today. And across your screen, it's telling you how you can come on the show. We'd love to get great coaches who come on and inspire other people to do something. This is definitely a business show, even though we got a little personal today, right? And for us, it's always, what is it about business that can propel you? How do you do business to impact not only your own family, your own welfare, but the welfare of your community and
Yeah.
the people in the community? Sometimes it's global. Some of the coaches we've had on here are global, where they're making an impact, not just in the community, but the internet has given us the opportunity to impact so much deeper. And
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody who joined us today. Really appreciate everybody who gave us a couple of likes and hearts. Mandy, thank you. Eddie, Michael, Mary Andrew, appreciate you guys. And do us a favor, don't forget, we are on every Friday. Unless something beautiful comes up, we're not here. But for the most part, we're here every Friday coming to you, sharing some business ideas and tips that can impact your bottom line. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You, my dear, are a beautiful human being. I'm so happy we're doing this show together.
Same with you. Thank you so much, Sifu. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.